with the words similar figures. My first couple years of teaching, I continually got made fun of for me when I say figure. I said figure, like F-I-G-G-E-R, like figgy pudding or figgy whatever, like I don't even know. But yeah, it is figure, a figure. There's a U in there. It is not Tigger, T-I-double-G-R. Please tell me you know what I'm talking about.
Tigger the Tiger?
Yes, Winnie the Pooh. TTFN, Tata for now. That's another thing Tigger says. Yes, that is the first thing we're going to do. So, 621, if anyone still has questions from 621, because I don't know that we actually went over it, like, I know I probably showed my homework, but I don't know that I ever actually just put the answer key in front of you guys. So again, guys, we're not just doing homework to do homework. And you're not just doing homework to get the effort grade. You're doing homework to check, do I know what I'm doing? So if your answers are wrong, it's not that your homework isn't going to get counted, but your answers are wrong. Like, you should care about that. So ask if you have questions or things that are incorrect and you don't know why. Jake?
I feel this. 622 is before 621. Like, this is 661, and that's, oh.
Moving on. Questions from 621. Max. Gravity Works.
Well, I'm gonna clean that up in a little bit.
We can also steal Estes' vacuum if we need.
Okay. I think we should do that. I will get it. Anyway, on 6. Wait, did I have any questions for 6?
It might be 622 that you're waiting for.
Yeah, it is. Same.
Any 621 questions? Similar figures. F-I-G-U-R-E-S. Oh my gosh, Brenda. Alright, nothing from 621? I appreciate it. You're just funny. It's like, as soon as I say something, you do it.
I'm not wrong.
This is 621. We're about to move on. Check your table there in 51. Stop. I should not have to tell a 7th grader to stop repeating something that is completely unnecessary and unrelated for class. So for any of us that need to hear it, all of us teachers are like, we talk a ton, and we're all communicating the same messages across the board, and we're starting to plan parent conferences for behavior that we think should be outgrown by now. Amelia.
For 650, I thought, like, is that an arrow? Like, I thought that was, like, they, like, distributed it, and then it was that. Or is that, like, an equal symbol, so you should, like, use the equal value?
So is this symbol what you're asking about?
No,
So here, let me pull up my copy of the homework to make sure I'm looking at the exact same thing that you are.
if on the equation it shows, like,
No, it's on everyone's homework. It's 621.
is that, like, an equal symbol, or, like, what symbol is that?
How did you see what I grabbed?
I can see the graph.
Weirdo.
No, because it's how it's at.
Where is my 621?
The plug does not reach the post where we need a vacuum. I need assistance.
It doesn't need to be plugged. I think that's how you charge it. Isn't it cordless? Unplug the charger from it, and I think it should work. Well, I don't know. It's not my vacuum. Gosh, I might need to go see Mr. Waterwash. Talk to somebody about how we can. You guys are mean. All right, 621. I know. That's why I just said that.
It's not even that loud either. Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah, see, it's battery operated. The only reason I knew that is I've seen him in the middle of his room vacuuming, and I knew what it had to be. 50, right?
Yeah. What is that symbol?
Oh yeah.
It looks like an arrow. I thought it was an arrow. Yeah.
So,
It's
it-
Oh, that was so fancy. Okay, I'm
That's
done
not
now.
like this. You're not pulling that.
Yeah,
I'm waiting to figure out if we're gonna actually be able to have class or if I'm just gonna get interrupted every time I open my mouth. It's either way. I mean, we can just end up having to do 2 lessons in one day. I think some people actually want the next homework, but that'll never get passed out if we can't get through this question. So if we look in the book, which is always what I've told you guys, if anything from the homework doesn't quite make sense, when in mathematics we use an arrow like this, it is pretty much used just like an equal sign, except we're saying becomes, right? This, like, becomes this thing. So if you went to the homework help,
I was right. Okay. Alright. That's all I needed to know.
so if we distribute, no, it doesn't really depend. If we distribute, the only way, here's the real fun part about this problem. This could be true.
If X was 0.
If x is 0, then distributing the 2 wouldn't matter, and these 2 sides would be equal. So if you didn't know what you were doing, and you went to homework help, like I just did, it walks you through. Right? Simplify both sides as much as possible. When could these be equal? Well, if x is 0.
Okay, well, yeah, that's all I needed to know because I just didn't know what that symbol was.
Yep.
Like I did that and I was like, oh, they didn't distribute the 2 to the 5x. It should be 10x.
So they did not distribute correctly,
Yeah,
but that could still be a true statement
yeah.
if x is 0.
Okay, thank you.
622, I don't think we went over this at all because I just gave it out yesterday, and you don't have all of these questions on your homework because I cut down and only gave you the questions I really cared about so that it would fit on one paper. So what, your first question was 61.
Oh, that makes for the six first one 661 B. I didn't get it at first because like the yeah.
Can I get my homework?
Yeah, you probably should if you don't have this homework.
What?
Or do you mean get it back?
Yeah.
This is the issue with turning stuff in ahead of time that I've already talked with you guys about. If you're gonna want to have your homework the next day, just hang on to it. Did I shove it back in the bin? No. I may not be able to find it right in this moment. Oh, they are right here. I hope so. Because I need to give you guys back all these papers. Nope. I have your guys' homework somewhere. It's in a stack in one of my books, but I'm not sure.
See you, Woodman.
Lily, thank you for raising your hand. I just did this problem with somebody just earlier. So here's the issue. That table is tricky. And not like it's a trick question, but that table is tricky. Can anyone tell me why? Why is that table tricky? Spencer? Well, the numbers go in order, quote unquote, like from small to big, but they skip exactly what you're saying. So when we look at this, Hector, they give us number of years at the company, And they start at 1. But if we want to start at when Hector originally gets with the company, that would be 0, right? We'd need to go back and essentially find our y-intercept point.
Yeah.
And here's the tricky part of the table. If you look at the $1.50 growth, that's not growth for 1 year. That's growth for 2 years. So the growth every year is 75 cents. So if we went backwards a year, we'd be at 6.25 and then gaining 75 cents each year. The tricky part of this table is that growth that you see. Now, if you look right up here from 6 to 7, there you can see the 75 cents. Make sense now? About 75?
Well, the B. Yeah. Yeah.
So what is 625 times 20 hours? 125. I am betting some of you have this answer wrong and you use the $7.
Yeah, I had 140.
Colin,
Yeah, that's what I did. I thought it was 1.5.
these are the trap doors you guys got to start really being aware of. Year 1 is not year 0. Guys, no, I'll get to that later. Real life math story to tell you guys, where I was smarter than my accountant brother-in-law. Anna, you had said my name. Your hand wasn't up, but you had said my name. Did you need something? Other questions? Spencer. Oh, there you go. But all because you weren't confident doesn't mean you didn't do it, right? You went ahead and tried it. You took a risk, at least I'm assuming. You went ahead and tried it, you took a risk, and now you realize, like, oh, I did know what I was doing. Sweet. Max.
I'm confused on 663. I mean, I got A. I don't know about B or D.
So yesterday at the end of class, we talked about this a little bit because I realized that some of us don't understand box and whisker plots. Who can tell what I admitted yesterday, Amelia, that is kind of sad?
That you didn't know that there were 4 quarts in a gallon, like a quart, because it's like 4 and like it's split up to 4 and you didn't know there were 4 quarts.
Yeah, guys, I'm from a small town, like way smaller than Worthington. Like our high school, we had one, and we graduate 100 people every year.
Oh, wow.
You guys graduate like 1,000 or some nonsense. So I think that's over. I think it's like 700. But there were certain things that nobody cared if you did or did not know, because it was like, man, whatever. Prefixes and stems of words and what words actually mean. I'm not joking. My first year at Phoenix, when we went through stems, and I was a foundations teacher, there were so many times that I went, oh, that's why that word is what it is. And I know we have a stems test next week, so I want you to hear me when I tell you, or tomorrow, I want you to hear me when I tell you stems are important. They will help you a ton in life. You will be generally more intelligent by understanding word structure. Colin, I don't know what you're doing, so close your laptop for now. Other questions? Oh, so quartiles. Quart means fourth. Quart means broken up into fourths, or there are 4 of, or whatever. So this is a fourth of our data, a fourth of our data, a fourth of our data, and a fourth of our data. Notice they're not equal spaced out, because our data is not always equally spaced. And if you know anything about a bell curve, most data, quote unquote, if we had a graph and we were to graph it, most data, if this is like your average, most data looks like a bell. It literally looks like a curve where your 50% of your data, and then your outer edges have your lower 25 and your upper 25. But your middle 50%, that's why we put that in the box. So what was the median? Median means straight up middle, right? So the middle of the boxes is our median. So that's how we get 80%. Did most students earn a particular score? Yeah, I mean, most being like 50%, I guess you could say. But you could also argue different answers here. But I would say most of them were between 74 and 90, or you could say most of them were between 74 and 100. Like most of them got a C or higher, you could say. Like only 25% of them probably like failed the test. Max?
How would you know that they got a particular score?
Not like, so particular, we don't know exactly the number. So you could also argue no. Your answer there could be no, we don't know exact scores. I'm not even sure what the answer key says, so I don't even really care about the answer key most of the time. So sure, they say no. If you want to make the argument for yes, you can try, but we don't know the exact scores of them, so we could only talk about a range of scores. Yes.
Do you think it'd take a long time? This isn't really relevant, but do you think it'd take a really long time for someone like to type out every single answer?
Of what? What do you mean?
The questions, and all the questions, and write the book, and
Yeah, that's why they have a company full of people that split up the tasks and work as a team to get things done. But yeah, it probably would. It also took me a long time to, now I'll admit I did a lot of copy pasting, but like these are mine. They don't belong to CPM. I stole stuff out of CPM, like copy pasted and whatever, but like I make these. And yeah, it takes a lot of time.
I feel bad for you.
It's my job. I chose it. Don't feel bad for me. Feel bad for me when kids are acting up and won't listen to me. That's when you can feel bad for me. But I chose to be a teacher and make all these plans and everything else. Yeah, you should have done that a couple minutes ago since your homework is buried away somewhere. I don't know where they did. It might still be in my backpack, honestly, because I didn't grade them last night. You guys just turned them in ahead of time. All right, turn them in. 623, if anyone went ahead and started it and has questions, we can take those questions. We don't really need to. We'll go over it tomorrow as well. Yeah. Absolutely, but sit down, so I'm not doing it right this moment. Because we got to talk about a couple things dealing with similar figures first. Get out 623. You are not turning that in, even if it's done. Okay, Amelia wants us to be in the dark. Well, there's a certain, like, where it actually...
Yes! Right! Remember, guys, I can't see, so it's easy for everything.
There. That's sure. We'll do
That's a
that.
large light.
That's fine. Do I do something? No, let's do anything.
I can wait until you guys figure out this issue.
That's okay then. Second? Yeah.
All right, so with your team, I want you to think back to our Desmos yesterday, and that's why we're not opening it up right now, because y'all had way too much fun with that. That's not allowed at school. You can't have fun at school. Never. No door decorating contests allowed, no dances allowed, just no fun allowed. I'm being sarcastic, because I think Phoenix is like one of the most fun places. Guys, I go home, and even with all the stress of like, I seriously texted my wife the other day. I was like, I freaking love my job. Like, it's just so great. And she's stuck at home because they haven't gone back to work yet. She works at the Ohio Department of Health because she got her master's in science, or master's of science in allied health. And then she got a job at the health department. But then everything changed because COVID hit. So right here on your paper, it says after Desmos, right? Because we did Desmos yesterday. Talk with your team about when Marcel wasn't similar to Dan, and when Marcel was similar to Dan, and what made that the case. Like, what makes things similar or not? Can you please stop? Thank you. It's also gross that you're putting that like near your mouth. Because that's my rule. That's going to be shared by people. And then once you chat, write down a definition for similar. somehow you got the people who turned in homework yesterday, you're mixed into this one. So 621 and 622 mixed in here. So that comes back one that was like a new one. Yeah, so it's one of the new ones that I think. Wait, I was about to say, where is your paper similar to random definition? Anyone else need 623? Which is the prefix to. You don't need to cover that up. People can copy that if they want. Actually, Lily, thank you for volunteering. Lily wants to point out that there's actually a defined definition over there. And if you haven't noticed, Mr. Hall and I, he took some of his down because I think they were taking an assessment and he wanted people to have to remember it. We got the same stuff on our cabinets with talking about different parts in math that are pretty important. What does it say with similar figures over there, Lily?
It says that similar figures are the same shape, but they may or may not be the same size.
Same shape. So if on your paper, a great thing to start writing down would be same shape. Square's got to stay a square. Circle's got to stay a circle. But different size. Like might be different size. Right? Does it have to be?
No.
No. But we have a special word when similar figures are not only the same shape, but are also the same size. Sure, copy, but copies can actually change size. I can enlarge or reduce on the copy machine, the quote unquote copy machine. Identical would be a word that could work, but there's a special math word. Jordan's not here today, right? Okay. I didn't drop any of Jordan's papers in the wrong place, did I? I don't think so, but sometimes I get confused. I'm talking while I'm thinking. Congruent. So if they are exactly the same, then they are congruent. But similar is same shape, but different size. How do we change size? Dilation. What do we use when we dilate? Scale. Scale. Factor. A scale factor. So then, hopefully, maybe you still have some space here where you can go to your graph paper. If your scale factor is 1, what happens? If your scale factor is greater than 1, what happens? And if your scale factor is less than 1, what happens? Talk with your team. I have another thing to put in front of you that might jog the memory.
Can you go back to the thing?
So, like what my paper looks like? And we'd be remiss if we didn't use some random cards. Anna, what happens if we have a scale factor of 1? Scale factor of 1. That's when we use that special word, congruent. If somebody tells you to scale something by a scale factor of 1, they are asking you to copy it. To make a congruent. Guys, this is a vocab word that will be important soon. So if you didn't write down congruent yet, make sure you have it on your paper. Walter, what about when we are greater than 1? Yeah, that is when we would have an enlargement. Okay, guys. Just because enlargement made me think of it. Apartments. Even apartments.com is getting in on the dad jokes.
Can I get one?
Like, no, I'm not sharing those. Sorry, but they're all like unwrapped and everything. And then less than one. Jake?
Oh, decrease.
Yeah, or we would call that a reduction, right?
Decreasement.
A reduction. Yes, a decreasement. Sure. I don't know if that's a word.
Everything is a word if you try hard enough.
Everything's a word if you make it a word. Everything's a number if you make it a
And then, alright, so you guys have to deal with me telling a math story before we can go back to Desmos. So to like legitimize this and prove to you this is in fact real, so my brother-in-law texted me yesterday, and it's Chuck with a Q. He said, I have a compound multiplication question for you. I'm not going to put Chuck's phone number in front of the whole world. I realize that my phone shows it when you do that. So Chuck calls me, and what's funny is I can guarantee with certainty that none of you would be able to solve this problem, but then when I say that, it's going to motivate you that like some of you want to solve it. But the reason that I know you wouldn't know how to do this is it uses a mathematical shortcut that you haven't learned yet. But I guarantee you can't do it how he needs it done to be efficient. So my brother-in-law is he's in the medical world in a way. He's an accountant, but he's been like a medical accountant for a while. So he's smart and he's good with numbers and he's older than me and he married my sister. So I'm always trying to impress him, right? That's how you get a brother-in-law is they marry your sister and they become your brother-in-law. Gus made a face like he doesn't understand how in-laws work. They're not your relative till the law says they are. Like my mother and father-in-law are only my relatives because of law, right? Law. Who cares? So Chuck is starting a company, a startup, legit, and they're trying to figure out what the total value of a client would be worth when they keep the client for multiple years.
Oh yeah, you did on Desmos.
Yeah. So just to show, like, you won't understand this right now, but no joke, this is what I ended up emailing him. This is the function we ended up having to use, and this is representing if you only have that client for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, but even as my year goes up, they don't pay us more. They pay us at the beginning of the year, and that's all the money we make. So the problem that we were trying to answer was if you keep this client for 7 years, what would be the difference between charging them a 3% inflation, just like dilation, right? We're making things bigger. 3%. After 7 years, that client would have been worth $69,130 or $130 versus if they go with the 7% that they're looking at, $78,076. So this now allows Chuck to be able to go into like any boardroom or whatever and present this to a group of people that may not totally understand the math. Look at how powerful it is when you can put it in a graph. It's like all the stuff that we're doing in Desmos is leading to you doing super complicated math and being able to do like amazing things with this utility. So if you want to spend the last 8 minutes playing with Marcellus the Giant or Dan whatever, and say, oh bother, oh biscuits, you can do that. Or you may work on homework or whatever else you need to. Because we did a lot yesterday, we don't have as much to do today.
Can I have some? Do you have any tape?
Let me double check that Desmos is actually live. So I closed the tab, so give me a second.
There's really only 8 minutes of class. That's crazy.
What?
We got 3 times inside.
It should be open, but if it's not, just give me a second.
Patrick.
Yeah, Desmos should be live.
Okay. Do you have any tape that
I would honestly use that painter's tape right over there. It's the best tape I got in here. Do I have duct tape? No, I don't. I don't have any duct tape, so we used it all on the drop things.
next summer because I'm not here?
I'm gonna pass it out to everyone. Thank you for that reminder. Same with Anna. She was coming over and bugging me about that too. Because I told you guys I'd give it out. Oh no, I gave her one with a folded corner. Here's tomorrow's homework. A lot of you are masters trying to work ahead. Then you can put it back in the bin. Guys, just look at your binder. I'd rather know that I passed it out to everybody because we have a couple classmates that won't be here tomorrow. People want to work ahead. You do not need to do the thing that says examples from class because guess what? We'll do that tomorrow. Who else? I feel like I have too many extras. I know we're missing Max Wright. But... so we're missing at least 2. I still feel like I have 2 extras. But... Do you need help like applying the thing? If it gets stuck to itself, it's a super pain in the butt. Like I feel like painter's tape is as bad as duct tape when it gets stuck to itself. Yeah, aren't you guys are in that one, right?
I think.
And now, just for a little bit of fun, Pascal's Christmas tree. Pascal's triangle. If you don't know what Pascal's triangle is, you can research it. It has to do with the Fibonacci sequence or Fibonacci series, depending on who you ask. Depends on what they'll tell you. How did I get this 2?
1 plus 1.
I added the 2 ones above it. So how did I get this 3? I added the 1 and the 2 above it. How did I get this 4? 1 and 3. So your entire way down the trees on the outsides would be 1s. But then the value beneath sums the 2 numbers above. There are some really cool, interesting relationships that happen here. And the fact that this is in nature, like you can find this sequence in nature.
What ratio? I think have you showed us that?
About the Fibonacci series or sequence. Yeah, I've shown that before. But yeah, so this is another one of my decorations for the door. Is going to be Pascal's Christmas tree.
My name isn't in here, Mr. Hudson.
Then are you in the other? Did I have you guys in the other filing cabinet?
I mean,